think the change that I saw along with others that had to go on is that for a long time this sport was run by people that were making a lot of money off it, which is
Right.
okay.
Hmm. Yeah,
There's
it is.
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there is some fundamental things that have to be done in order for the sport to have the future success for the players of tomorrow. And when your only sole operandi is to maximize and to, just keep control of that economic engine, then you start to see that it's not you're not going to do the fundamental little things that we've had to do
Right.
to move the sport to the echelon that we need it to be vis-a-vis striving for the Olympics. So the Europeans, Chris, I want you to know, are very much more pure in in the sense of why they do the sport
Okay.
than North Americans. And North Americans have a little bit more of a economic view. The operators that do it there is no league operators. It's all
Right.
government. It's all run like almost like a government sporting association.
Hmm.
So they have regions, but they don't have like a league operator who carries a lot of weights, making thousands of dollars off the sport. They don't view the sport like that. And in
Really?
a
That's
yeah,
interesting. Huh.
and in a lot of ways, uh, as we get to know them,
Right.
they have the fundamental elements closer at heart than we did here.
Okay.
And it's changing now with what my argument to the people that run, and here I am going off these leagues,
Right.
I would say if we come closer together and uh, we generate an interest where you think you have to protect your economy and create walls. My argument is, and it's a basic economic principle, is if we get everybody together and we generate the love of the sport and we break those barriers and the sport grows,
Right.
we
Hmm.
watch our fundamentals,
Hmm.
you guys are going to gain economy. So the sport still is being watched fundamentally,
Right.
and the operators are gaining too.
Hmm.
And this is basically what's happened in North America. A lot of work. That
Hmm.
I was a coach 110%. I went across Canada, won regional camps. So when I see what the USA is doing, it gives me a little bit of a joy to see how they're trying to reach out. I would say what I found is you'll never expect where you find players. And unless you
True.
go,
Yeah.
you won't know. And also, what I will say is, I started going around in camps in the year 2000. Some of those camps ignited players that I ended up getting 6 years later. So without
Really.
those camps, I wouldn't have been able to elongate the ability to give the players a chance to win those championships. And I always say to them, you guys are the ones that won, not me.
Right. Right.
All I was trying to do was create a simple atmosphere for them to win. And I guess having played on 5 Canadian championship teams, I learned what it took to win at the highest level. So, I just took that and I implemented it with the guys. And I mean, a guy like Burroughs, I had him when he was 20. And, Alex learned a lot. I think Alex wouldn't have been the type, well, he would have been a great player, but I think he learned a lot from ball hockey and it made him a better ice hockey player.
Right. Right. So let me ask you, when you are coaching players of that caliber, what do you feel is your obligation to get out of them? Because, to be frank, obviously they have skill, right? They know how to play. They know how to mean. Like, what does George Gortsos expect to get out of a guy like Alex Burrows in a ball hockey tournament? Like, how do you approach that?
Well, everybody's different, right?
Right.
Guy like Burrows, everybody told me, George, you're not going to like coaching this guy because he's, vocal. He yaps at other guys. Well, I looked at him and I said, I don't have a problem with this guy as long as he comes to work and play hard. And, Alex was well loved. The Alex you see on the ice or on the floor is not the Alex that everybody loved in the dressing room.
Right.
And, I recognize that through my competitive instinct because I think a lot of people did not enjoy playing against me. So what I wanted to see is to give those guys a platform to be able to do what they did. So I didn't overcoach.
Right.
I would say I undercoached. Okay. What I preached was, taking care of themselves, drinking water, eating properly. The things that I knew as a player helped me. And then I also taught them a simple system which allowed them to attack. I really am not a fan as a coach of overcoaching. Even in the NHL, I hate watching games where the coaches are trapping and whatever. So, one of my beliefs, and I think the players today will even tell me, we love the fact that you gave us the ability to play, a two-man forechecking game, gave us the offensive ability to use our imagination, one guy high, and basically my motto was we're gonna control the ball, we're gonna get the ball, and once we get the ball, I called it reverse forechecking. We get the ball. Mm-hmm. I didn't want my wingers coming down low. I wanted them high, and I wanted them to support the ball almost like a soccer. So in ball hockey, what happens is a lot of these guys have an ice hockey mentality. They think they should go up and down the wing. Well, I was really hard on them saying, why don't we do crossing runs? Why don't we support the ball? If the ball's here, why is this guy running straight? Why is he not coming across? Supporting the ball, making the ball carrier stronger. Right. So this is a little bit of a soccer mentality, and I was a high level soccer player too. So I was a collegiate soccer player. So these kind of things correlated well for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, I know, people in hockey call the European style a soccer style, like you just mentioned, back and forth,
yeah,
sideways passing. Given where you were at that point in your coaching career, do you consider yourself a bit of a pioneer of that style in ball hockey now that it's become more popular?
Well, it's funny you say that, Chris, because my style was born from a team I played on in Ontario called the Midas Top Guns. So our team was built on speed and skill. So our defense had good ball handling. We get the ball up, and then the boys would attack. And so my thought process was we have a lot of space on that floor, especially on European floors.
Right.
Who says a right winger can't be left winger? Who says a left winger can't be a right winger? We did like to use the almost predominantly the off shot winger. So a left would play right, a right would play left. But I saw that I had a great collection of French Canadian players who were the bulwark of my team. Based on the red light. And I knew the way they wanted to play. And I also was comfortable from the team I grew up with playing that style. So all I gave them was a little bit of defensive structure. And when I saw the USA in 2009, and I was watching guys like Schlegel and Hauser and some of the skilled guys, I said to my coaches, I go, this team here reminds me a little bit of the young group I had in 2000. If they really dedicate themselves, and that's the one thing about Red Light, they really dedicated themselves to winning. They have the offensive jam to really cause problems. And, as it turned out for me, that was my last game. They beat us in overtime. And, I warned the team. But, it's hard for the team to really know how good, they could hear it from me, but they weren't expecting it, right? But I see that the U.S. is and I tell this to Chris Banks and DeFazio whenever I talk to them, and Ricky, that they have a lot of skilled players, and I think the type of game that I think wins well based on speed and skill. I think the USA has a real chance if they, like I think Corey Hirsch is a great young coach. If they follow a simple game plan and they allow the players to do what they do best, I think the USA can be a powerhouse, quite frankly.
I wanna ask you about that 2009 game, and you said that was the last game you coached. Is that correct? That's the last game you coached.
Well, it was the last game of, we actually then ended up winning the 5th place game, but which was a good game, but it was the last game of significant meaning. It was a quarterfinal. But Canadians, it's funny. The Americans get really up to play Canadian. Canadians get really up to play the Czech Republic. So, I don't think enough of a rivalry is being built between Canada and USA. Maybe more so at the junior, but not at the men's. However, I think it would serve those two countries really well if a rivalry was built, because what you would find is that they would both gain from it, like the Czechs, absolutely. The Slovaks do, and the Swiss, who are coming on gangbusters now, because they have the 3-nation cup over there in Europe. So I think Canada and the U.S. would be really well served by having a kind of a friendly, adversarial kind of way of meeting with each other, or by just meeting each other at World Championships. And listen, a little bit of healthy dislike for the other team is not a bad thing.
No, it's not at all.
It's hockey.
It is, and you're right. You're 100%. It's hockey. So do people who've seen that 2009 game have said it's one of the best ball hockey games they've ever seen. Do you feel like maybe that was the game that put America on the map internationally? And with all due respect, George, I know you were the coach, you lost the game, but do you think that game maybe gave the Americans the confidence they needed to feel like that, we can compete at this level?
My observation is that had America had the mindset that you have now, where you're generally trying to reach out to all regions to get players, that team there basically extended itself to its limits to beat Canada. It was a great game, and yes, they did come onto the scene. But what happened is they didn't have any gas to go any further, and that's because the roster was too small, didn't have enough players. And part of winning a world championship, and I tell this to young coaches all the time, is economizing the energy source of your players. As a top player, I always wanted to have my top energy left for the quarters, the semis, and the finals. Right. So if you're what happened with that USA team is their energy level was drained like a video game right to its extent, right?
Yeah,
and it didn't have anything left when the real cookie came, right? And as a coach, because I was a top player, I was very careful. I mean, listen, this is another staple of my my teams. We were 4-line teams. We didn't take penalties. If you look at the records of my team, I would preach to them, we're not going to take penalties. We're going to play 4 lines. We're going to run.
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to dictate the speed of the game, because the other teams didn't like that so much. So what happened was, through doing that, the energy level of my teams in those days would be ready for when showtime came.
Right, right.
And that USA team did make a statement beating Canada, but at the same time, they had no juice left in the tank.
Right.
Because had they had another 5 or 6 players, maybe from other parts of the USA,
Mm-hmm.
they may have won a world championship,
Right.
because they had the skill level in what they, you had Hildreth on defense, you had, good veteran leadership in Georgie, you had some really skilled guys,
Right.
uh, but at the end, you, you know, there was nothing left for them to give.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way to
And,
put it.
and as a coach, to win a world championship is managing resources.
What's, in your opinion, is it coaching at the world level?
Hmm. Uh, I think if the coach gives them a simple game plan, and they stick to it, like I said, I had a simple plan, 4 lines, stay out of the box. I would have just a simple game plan. It allows the players to go out and win.
Okay.
And that's what, at the end of the day, it's the players that win, because I know that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was in the final against the Czech Republic, we went out as players, and we worked the game plan and just dominated.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's just giving the players a platform. Don't overcoach them. Don't over, I wasn't a big guy of, trying to control them, and, but I wanted them working hard. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted them sticking. I didn't want them taking stupid penalties, and they knew
Right.
that,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to play the game like a fast break NBA team, but
Right. Mm-hmm.
constantly, because the number one, and I'll say this, the number one intimidator in sport, and in our sport, is speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I had speed. Our
Yeah.
teams had speed. I was a very fast runner, so I knew how speed would allow me as a defenseman to go back and outrun the guy to get the ball, to give the ball to the guy that was going to go and score the goal.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's reverse forechecking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to get that ball, and my defense was small, fast, and if they were big, they better run, because I wanted them to get the ball, move it out, and let my forwards do what they do best.
Right.
Simple,
It is. It is simple.
but
So
it's,
let me
go
ask you,
ahead.
regarding the players, right? So a lot of people in our game are just not familiar with coaching at all when it comes to playing organized street hockey, whether it be ball hockey or deck hockey or even in a gymnasium. They're just not familiar with coaching because you really only see it at the higher level tournaments and obviously at the World.
Right.
So one of the things I think that people wonder about is, yeah, it's great to talk about go tell your guy to go run, but you're not dealing with NHL or AHL, athletic type people. They're not in the best of shape. So as a coach, in order to play for George Gortsos, would I have to commit myself 110% to being in the best physical shape possible so that you can get the most out of me?
Well, and here's what the brilliance of my camps was. We would go out, we do fitness tests. We used to do what was called a Ligier shuttle run. We used to, we'd have 40 guys at these camps. We'd equalize the teams. We'd
Mm-hmm.
tell them what we were looking for. We'd then, take the best from those camps. Then we would scout our nationals,
Mm-hmm.
which is, Canada is very lucky in my generation to have very high-end nationals. So
Oh
we'd
yeah.
scout that. Then we'd bring the top 60 people together 4 or 5 months before. We'd fitness test them again. So, like, if a player isn't getting the idea, um, of what it takes, then, they're going to come to camp and get embarrassed. So if you're a competitor,
Gotcha.
you're going to get in shape, right? The other thing is you know, as a player, as a defender, right? So you're playing against great players like Burrows or a Schlegel or whatever. As a defender, you have to be in better shape than them because they know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I have to adjust to it. So the way I dominated as a player was I was in better shape. So I tried to always tell my players how being in great shape is going to help you be a better player. It's going to help you be a better person. It's going to help you in life. And if you win, you're a world champion for life. I mean, one of the guys on my team, Ray Kalari, won a world championship. He was a fourth line. I always had one line, Chris, that was the only line I really coached. My first three were skilled lines. The fourth line had a great face-off man with two guys that had heart to run. They dumped the ball in, 60% of the time, and they'd forecheck.
Right.
Unless they had a 2-on-1 or 3-on-2. Well, Ray was one of those guys, and through what he's done, he now is one of the amateur scouts of the San Francisco Giants. He's won 2 world championship rings.
Wow.
So, he called time and he goes, Coach, like he's out there. He goes, all the things you preach, I'm looking for in ball players now.
Yeah.
So, so the payoff is huge, and it's not just on the ball. Once you become a world champion, you're a world champion for life. And I think my observation of the USA is what's going on now with you guys starting to collaborate and building an energy. I think a lot of the players' mentality is, well, I'm going to win a tournament here. I'm going to win a tournament there. I'm going to win a tournament here. And that's going to make me a good player. Well, they, just like anybody else, the big enchilada, the hardest one to win is the world championship. And they just got to reset their target, because to go around saying you're the best in the world is a lot better to say I won a tournament in Philadelphia, even though that may be great. Right?
Yeah.
So, that doesn't come for free.
Right.
And it's especially getting harder because in my observation, Chris, there's a lot more countries that want to seriously win it now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, the Swiss are serious. The Czechs and the Slovaks are coached very well. Canada now is trying to rejig its high performance, so they're going through a little bit of change, and you guys are starting to get your best minds together. And hey, it's not going to be easy for anybody to win.
No, I don't think it is. I can tell you from having spoken to a lot of people down here, there is definitely a hunger in America now. There really is. There is buzz. There is, I guess it's American swagger. It really is.
Well, that's okay.
And that's what you need. That's what it takes to win a world champion. So when you hear something like that, as the president of the ISBHF, how does that make you feel to see?
Chris, it's funny you said that. When I first ran for presidency, I said the ISBHF right now is running one spoke short, because the USA is just a regional entity. Right. I go, unless we really make an effort to reach out and help USA become unified and become a force. I said, I told the delegates there, I thought the USA could be the leaders of our sport. So, my efforts have been to get to know the USA landscape. I've really made an effort. Only because I do believe in my words, and I see the people involved now, the Jamie Cooks, the Banks, the DeFazios, the Tarantinos, Matt Geary running an event for the Masters. I could go on and on. JJ Devaney. All these guys here I know love the game. And I also know they have the USA swagger, and I'm okay with swagger. I mean, Burrows could have been an American. So I'm okay as long as they deliver the goods. And the goods that I see that they can deliver for the sport is, to show the strength they have in numbers, and reach, and also the skill level that that they've garnered through just playing the game, naturally.
Right, right.
One of the great things I think the USA has is when you're talking about, more kind of traditional, ice hockey markets. And I'm talking about where you are in South California, Tampa Bay, whatever. Well, in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Canada, there's all this preconceived notion of coaching that is put on the players. Ice hockey, I coached high-level ice hockey for 13 years. I had, Mike Camilleri on my team for 2 years. So I've coached ice hockey.
Right.
And at a high level, and I've coached ball hockey, and it's two different animals. But in those hockey nations, there's a certain way that gets put on the players that staggers their offensive imagination. Where you guys have a skill is you've allowed the players to kind of find their, and as long as you keep harnessing it and don't fucking, excuse me, don't put
right,
that in.
Hey,
don't neuter it.
Right.
And allow it to just, hey, there's nothing that can stop offensive imagination. And, it's hard for people to defend against it. And that's why our Canadian teams were so hard to game plan for, because you never knew what they were going to do. And I love that.
Right.
And I think the Americans and the type of players you have and you're creating are going to allow you to be that way. And I think the fact that you don't have that preconceived kind of coaching, like everybody's a coach here in Canada and the Czech Republic and Slovakia, right?
Yeah.